It's day 5 of the campaign, which means we're closer to polling day on May 3rd. Now, today on the show, I have 3 more new faces from Team PAP. Shawn Loh, who's running in Jalan Besar, Cexiang, who is in the Tanjong Panga JRC slate, and Haz, who is in East Coast. But first, if you're new to the show, I'm Natasha. Welcome to the usual place. So back to you all on the couch. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
After the last days of campaigning, what is the one big takeaway that each of you have taken from your walkabouts? Shawn, since you're at the end of the couch. Yeah,
so the one big takeaway is that there's no substitute for hard work, Nat. We've been walking the blocks, spending time in the community, spending time in the markets every morning, and there's no way in which we can substitute that hard work and the interactions we have on a physical basis. I think all of us have socials to reach out to different groups of the community, but nothing can replace that warm handshake, that nod, and that word of support.
Okay. Yeah. Cexiang, what's your takeaway?
I think the energy that we bring to people really resonates. So yesterday we were at one block, quite high up block, and there was someone opposite from the kitchen who was, with her father, I believe, doing the love sign. And so we reciprocated. And then after that, you saw a few other people from other units also reach out. And I think that was quite a warm moment. So we were walking down the corridor, you can imagine, and people from the other side are, demonstrating their support and love. So it's heartwarming.
Did you expect that kind of reaction, or?
No, I didn't. It was a surprise. And I think because when we are walking the corridors, we do, we inform people we are here. I'm Cexiang. I'm a new candidate for Tanjong Panga JRC. I'm here to visit you, and if you're at home, I'd love to meet you. And then you start to see people open the doors, and the other side, there's a response as well. It's fantastic.
So then you have to run over to the other side.
Well, so they were gesturing to us, please come over to us today. And we were like, okay, we'll come over tomorrow, which is today now.
I see.
Haz, did you have the similar reception?
Same. I think the support has been really heartwarming. Actually, I mentioned it in my rally, right? Any comforting touch, any gesture of appreciation goes a long way. But the one takeaway I would have really is how we are all who we are really because of the teams behind us, our volunteers are really such big-hearted people across generations, giving time, giving all of their, heart and soul really into joining us on the walks. Keeping everyone motivated, hydrated, rested. It's really, really humbling. Really, really humbling. And then you're like, okay, there's hope for Singapore.
Yes,
right?
Well, and it's growing daily. So day 1, day 2, day 3, some new residents in the community are writing to us and asking to volunteer for this campaign.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the more jiayos there is, right? It really just makes the heart full, Really.
That's nice.
Just what Haz was saying, the volunteers really have an incredible impact. So when we go around, a lot of the residents, we may be a new face on the first day, but they recognize the volunteers.
That's right.
And when the volunteers introduce us, there's already, you can see that connection, that they have with some of our volunteers, very naturally extends to some of us as well.
Because mostly they're residents themselves, so they are members of that community and they're so motivated in building that community. It's really, really inspiring. And then you see this neighbourliness of taking care of each other. When I was at the private estates in East Coast, right? There was a village chief, that knows everybody, and they knock on the door with a personal name. Mr. Tan, are you home? Madam Joyce, are you home? That just tells you how important communities are, and what we are is we're building them, right?
Yep.
So the thing for me, I'm not in any of the 3 of your GRCs.
Where do you stay, Nat?
I cannot reveal this. Secret. Cannot reveal. I cannot. I tell you off
over
camera.
in your GRC?
No, not over. I get to vote this year. But the interesting thing for me is, you guys are in my age group. We're all the millennials on this couch.
There we go.
That's right.
That's right. Well, I was going to ask you if it means anything different, because you are touted as the next generation of the PAP, right? Because we're already there. So do you do anything differently than, say, previous generations, you think? Like,
Do you want to answer first? No.
Thanks.
Arrows.
So we're just going this way, and then it comes back this way. I'm always in the middle.
You're always in the middle. Okay. Well, I'll say that. We'll speak for our generation, right? I think we've personally, there's a lot of appreciation in representation, authenticity. So, if there's one thing I would say is that, hey, we see you. We see you, we feel you, we hear you, because we're one of you, right? We're in that generation. Although I always say I'm a geriatric millennial, down the other end.
Back in after the
pain, all, But I think the reality is that we appreciate exchange and we appreciate feedback. And at the same time, we also appreciate the wisdom of the elders. So I'm in an area where it's home to across generations. So a lot of the elders like to share their life stories and lessons that they've had. And I've had a lot of residents tell me, I built Singapore, you know. And that is the best sort of feeling that you go, well, thank you for building Singapore. I'm going to strengthen it for you. I think that's the kind of differences for being a sort of millennial in this space. And also connecting across generations, right? I mean, the youth will always inspire me. I mean, I'm calling out some of my former students that I see around here. It's so solid, you know.
They're in the studio with us?
Yes,
okay,
I'll tell you who they are. So it's really inspiring. The youth is really the future. The young folks really, really deserve to be heard. I mean, yeah, I'm going to drop some Gen Z slangs or Gen Alpha slang, but maybe later.
Yeah. Test you guys. Yeah, are you part of the crowd? So, Cexiang and Shawn, what do you make of being a millennial politician in this day and age?
So I think perhaps one of the biggest moments for myself is that actually we do take the time to listen to a lot of the residents. So yesterday we had, I think one of the residents who came up, quite some angst about the overall cost of living. And also, how she thinks the government needs to really listen. And I was there, I think, really patiently listening to her for 10 to 15 minutes. And actually, at the end of the day, she left, she thanked us, she wished us the best, and she said, it's good that you're able to take some criticism. And I think that's quite important, because you don't start off from the position that everything is right, everything is great. And that's not where we're starting from, which is why there's a refresh, right? But there are things that are going well, and there are things that can be better. And I think that's what this generational shift is all about.
That's interesting.
So I'll build on what Cexiang said. And Cexiang mentioned that we are bringing a new change in how we conduct politics at the national level, how we listen, how we interact, not just within the party, but with our political opponents. I think it's important to know that we have political opponents, but they're not enemies, and they're a bit different. And we're bringing a new, kinder generation of politics, I think, to the front in this generation. At least I hope to do so, and I know my team members also want to do so. So at the national level, we are representing the voice of our generation, the views, and also the way in which we conduct politics. I want to say that at the local level where I am, in Jalan Besar, and particularly Whampoa, we're known as a mature estate, an aging estate, but there are a lot of new families moving in, not least because we've had BTO developments coming up. So if you're listening in from Towner, especially Towner Crest, we'll be there to visit later this afternoon, and maybe even in the evening, if you're in the McNair and Bendemeer area. And I think with the same stage of life, I mean, beyond labels of millennials and all that, if we have the same life experiences, we grew up in the same type of climate, I think that's where we can vibe, we can resonate with this generation and the new generation of voters coming in.
All right.
Yeah.
Is that what you asked where the cameras were earlier so they could do the plug?
Yeah.
Timed that perfectly in the direction.
Looking forward to meeting you.
I love it.
Yeah.
I'll add to Shawn's point about kinder politics and respecting.
Yeah,
your
I was going to
opponents.
ask, what does kinder politics do you mean? Yeah.
I mean, it was a large part of my rally speech yesterday, right? Calling for kindness across Singapore. We've come to a point where there will be we have opinions, right? And we have differences. We are in the age of learning how to manage our differences and how to find the alignment. So these are strengths that we should be working on and not the fissures that we should deepen, right? So I'll touch on really having just full respect with people who choose to whether step up or step forward. Because really this is something that requires a lot of thinking, a lot of support, a lot of assessing, right? And I think at the end of the day, if we start by being kind to one another, which can be simply through listening, like Cexiang says, I do the same. I find that listening to a resident for about 15 minutes, just listening, assuages and calms, because people want to be heard, And I think that's what this is about. It's about being respectful. It's about appreciating each other and recognizing that there are differences. But, it's okay because this is the age of exchange.
I think the overall energy that we really hope to bring, I think, as part of a newer generation is politics that has a positive spirit to it. So one that the discourse and the discussions are based on positivity and optimism. So you want to go to a rally where you get enthused, you get excited, not because someone else is not good, but because it gives you the optimism in yourself that when I step out of it, I feel much better about myself and the prospects for this country. I think that is the kind of optimistic air that we really hope to bring.
That's right. We want to talk about ideas and not individuals.
That's right.
So that's something that, we will bring.
Okay. So thanks for getting into that. I want to ask each of you some questions individually. So Shawn, we start with you because you're at the end. Okay, but before we get there, let's check out a short snippet of a video you did with the Straits Times recently.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Which video is this? I would
Be
be
surprised as well.
All right, let's take a look at what you said.
It was a bit of a surprise to my family. I remember that just a couple of months ago, I was telling them over the dining table. And the first thing that my 12-year-old son, my eldest, said to me was he looked up from his dinner and said, "Pa, so how are you going to solve the cost of living?"
And on that note, cost of living has been one of the biggest issues this election. It comes up every day, right? Someone
Comes up when we visit our residents as well.
Yes. And many opposition parties have highlighted the GST in particular, and they have put forth proposals. Some include like exempting GST on essential items or reducing GST down from 9%, right? So for those watching, Shawn, you've actually overseen the last two budgets and you've worked on programs such as the CDC and SG60 voucher scheme. So as a former budget director, what's your take on what the opposition is saying about lowering GST in particular? Like, how feasible are these ideas?
So I want to start by saying that it's good that we have policymakers also coming to politics because we understand not just the ideas that are coming up, but the practicality of the ideas and how feasible it is to implement some of these from the civil services perspective as well. I don't want to spend too much time on it because this can be a whole hour-long discussion. But suffice to say that some of the ideas in terms of exempting certain items from GST and all would lead to additional adverse behaviors like gaming, like seeing whether a certain item is essential and not essential. And then the companies would then try to reclassify their items in a certain bucket to get a lower GST. Just as a quick example, I must say that I've only had the pleasure of being in the Ministry of Finance for a year and a half. So it was after the GST was raised. But what gave me a lot of pleasure was implementing the schemes, like the CDC voucher scheme and all, which gave that assurance for a time-limited period to many of our residents. In fact, many who saw the same video asked me what I told my son. Maybe Nat, I can share that with you. So as all parents, we don't want to answer our children directly, right? We don't want to tell them the answer. We say, "What do you think?" And the first thing my son said to me was, "Oh, we have CDC vouchers to help the community and to help those who need some support." And I was like, that's great. That's great that you're thinking about that. I don't talk about that at home. Or rather, it's not that salient to me that I talk about that at home.
So how does he know about the cost of living issues? He's 12, right?
He's 12.
Yeah.
PSLE, yeah. He reads the Straits Times. He reads the Straits Times. We have a hard
Thanks,
copy
Shawn.
at home. Just a plug. But I didn't stop there. I said that, yes, that's time-limited help. But what is the permanent help that we can do for Singaporeans? And then we had a discussion and I shared about how now I'm in the private sector. So businesses, incomes, jobs, livelihoods. Raising incomes is a structural way in which we can help Singaporeans adjust to the cost of living. I'm mindful that in the community, there are many seniors who have retired long ago, for which rising incomes and a good economy may not necessarily translate into direct benefits. And so we're also thinking about how to support them better, both in terms of community support schemes, but also nationally, how we can give them more assurance in their retirement.
All right. Yeah, I know we don't have the time to get into it all, but that was the quick summary on GST from your point of view, looking at the budget. Okay. I wanted to ask you quickly also, is there a trade-off if we lower GST now?
Yes, there is a trade-off. And I think that if I can then maybe share a bit more, the way in which I would think about it, and many of us think about it, I see the invest section there, is about portfolio diversification. And GST makes up part of the government's revenues. And keep in mind that all the government's revenues are then spent to support Singaporeans and redistributed. You want a certain amount of your revenues to be from the GST so that across all the revenue sources, you have a certain resilient taxation and expenditure system. In times of difficulty, in times of economic crisis, you still want a certain amount of revenues to come in so you can support the community during those times of need. And so there's a need for different revenue sources, including the GST, to be part of our fiscal system.
All right. So I want to go back to something you said, which was, you were talking about your son, right? And you have 4 children.
Yep.
Singapore's total fertility rate is at a historic low of 0.97. And this word, historic low, always comes up when we report about it. So what advice would you give to your peers who are in your age group who are on the fence about having children or having more? How
okay.
do you manage with 4 children?
Yeah, thanks, Nat, for asking me. I think in the community, I'm known as the candidate in his 30s who's a father of 4, and they forget everything else, but they only remember that. And that's really nice. I'll speak from personal experience, but before that, I want to say that our generation has different aspirations, and we should fully respect that. Some choose to have children, some choose not to have children, some don't have children, not by choice, but by circumstance, and we should be able to understand and empathize with everyone's situations. For me personally, I approached it by thinking about the lifestyle that I would lead after having the children that I had. So most I think in our generation choose the number of children they want to have based on the lifestyle that they aspire towards. My wife and I did the opposite, right? We decided that we have as many children as might come our way, and then we just adjust our lifestyle based on that. So I still live in my HDB flat. I don't know whether my kids are listening, but if you are, then we all live and we all sleep in the same room. My kids all sleep in the same room, and half the time I think I end up falling asleep next to them, so it's quite nice. And we just try to make it work. Yeah.
All right. Cexiang, you have 3 kids.
I do have 3 kids.
I don't
as
know.
well.
Do you? I mean, I wasn't going to ask you the question, but I just remembered that you also have 3 kids. And
Yep.
Yeah. Do you have anything to add on to what Shawn said about managing lifestyles when you have more kids?
I think for me, the part that perhaps some parents, I've heard this quite a few times, right? It can be quite stressful, and will we be able to provide for our children?
Which is a legit concern.
Which is a legit
I think.
concern. My personal experience, and I like to share this anecdote. So my daughter has a spelling test, and the word she's asked to spell is strong. And so she brings back her spelling book, and she has spelled it S-O-T-O-N-G, sotong. So my wife and I together with her, we had a good laugh, actually, because she got the English word wrong, but she learned the Malay word, and in the process, actually, she'll learn to spell both strong and sotong. But the underlying point about why I shared this story was actually for me and my wife, the most important thing is for my daughter to know, whatever the spelling test results, or whether you are strong or you are sotong, actually you have that assurance and love that daddy and mommy are always here and are your biggest supporters. And actually, I think ironically, that is the thing that our children really need the most to grow up in this world today.
That's right.
That assurance and confidence that whenever they go back home, they know they are loved.
Yeah.
And
you can be a strong sotong also.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's right.
Yeah. Exactly.
All right. Well, there was a
Before that,
calamari. Strong sotong is like calamari.
Yeah, before that, I think Cexiang said something that I want to hop on, if you don't mind, which is that shout out to our spouses as well.
Plus one, upvote.
I think what we do can only be done because we have strong support in the family and the community.
All right. That was a sidetrack because Cexiang, I wasn't going to ask you about your kids.
No.
But you're running in Tanjung Panga JRC, right?
Yes.
So let's take a look at what you said when you were unveiled as a candidate.
Right.
There's a lot of the residents that I'm really hoping to meet over the next couple of days. And that's going to be my target, to meet as many of the residents, especially those in Tanjong Pagar Johor Bahru ward, for me to hear in depth from them. Now that I'm standing as a candidate, I hope they'll be able to share even more with me so that I can represent them properly.
Okay, so one of the hot words of this election is groupthink. And one that's aimed at the PAP because candidates are coming largely drawn from civil service. Not largely, but they come from civil service and armed forces, some of them, right? So as someone who left the civil service to contest in this election, what do you say to that? And Shawn too, you also left, but let's hear from
Cexiang.
Yeah. Not to arrow you, but
Groupthink, firstly, you look at the makeup of the group. Actually, we do have very diverse backgrounds. Even within the civil servants, actually the experiences are very different. I, for example, started out at JTC, which is one of our statutory boards in charge of the industrial land in Singapore. But beyond the civil servants, you have a huge slate of candidates from diverse backgrounds. Haz herself from the media domain, and then you have surgeons, you have lawyers, you have entrepreneurs, SME owners as well. So that there's really a diversity of where people come from. But actually, it's not just about the diversity of where people come from. It's about when you come together, do you have different ideas? And I think that is where really the magic really happens. Because when we discuss policies and issues, I know Shawn from some time ago, actually the starting point of where we are, what we think are the key policies that will be helpful, are not exactly the same. And then you have some robust discussion and debate. And this is something that I think will be carried on. Even, if we are elected, if the chance to be elected, we will take that spirit forward within the party. I will also say that the concept of a group think, if you are only going to look at the labels of where people come from, then some people have also said that some of the other parties, for example, seem to have generations of candidates that are more similar to one another. But I think we have to look beyond that.
All right. Shawn, do you want to add on?
Yeah, if you
Coming
don't
from
mind.
the civil service?
Yeah,
yes.
if you don't mind. So we are both from the civil service, but we've not actually worked in the same
Exactly.
agencies. So just to be on Cexiang's point, I bring my private sector experience to bear. I was in the private sector in Commonwealth Capital Group during COVID. It's a local homegrown enterprise with more than 1,000 workers, and now I'm back there. So we bring not just the public sector, but the private sector experience to bear. I want to maybe dive a bit deeper into this idea of why do we want diversity? And quite often we stop there. We think diversity is the end in itself. But what we want is a good contest of ideas to bring the country forward with the best policies to bring it forward. And that's where I think the candidates come together with our diverse backgrounds to bring those ideas and to debate them. What is less mentioned today is that it's not just important to have diversity, but it's also important to have consensus and similarities in certain areas, specifically in the part of values. If we don't agree on our values, we can't move forward as a country. We can't move forward as a party. So we must try to get consensus to have similar values, but different ideas so that we can then move forward. If we have different values, it's very difficult for us to find support for some of the policies that we want to implement anyway. Yeah. So that's why I would say we should have same values, but different ideas and different backgrounds.
So I think the narrative that's coming out, and I think I heard this at a rally, one of the rallies yesterday, was that, when PAP MPs get together in the House, right, I think it's about towing the line. I guess that's where the idea of would you speak up, when it's necessary? Because people have pointed out that opposition MPs often ask more questions in Parliament. Although there are PAP MPs like Louis Ng and Ip Hon Wing who have, hit a certain number that's comparable, right? So what do you say about that? All three of you, yes.
You see how the assignments are coming this way. I was going to roll back a little bit to the public-private sector experience. I think the way that Singapore presents opportunities is you can have experiences across sectors, right? So Shawn spoke about the 2 Ps. So I had the good fortune in being across 3 Ps, people, public and private sectors. And the value to that is you understand how each other work, right? Or how each other sees something. And then that's when you can do a bit of your shifting to your perspectives. Some of us come from the people sector experience, and through that, you carry with you a lot of voices, folks that you speak on the ground. Perhaps that's why Louis, right, has a lot of opportunity to say. And I remember his commitment was actually to speak on every bill. And that's exactly what he did, representing the people that he was serving. In terms of asking questions, I think, as someone who trained in journalism, right, we love questions, right? I feel that questions are really something that you gather from the ground and you put forth, and you get to shape it after a lot of thought with good intent in terms of what is the outcome and change that you need to see. I don't know about... I understand that there's a lot of questions about groupthink or towing the line, but I think it's really about embracing the diversity that we bring, in that we listen, right? So we are listening because we are going to bring it up. That I would say is the intention. In terms of questions, sometimes it's not the loudest questions that are the best. It's the quiet ones. I always look out for the quiet questions. I always look for the person who takes time to ask questions because of the kind of deep insight to design it as well. So it's not really a numbers game, as always. It's really about thinking of the many people you represent. As an area representative, you represent so many identities, right? And given that we all carry many, whether you're a dad, a son, or a minority, a woman, I think there's so many perspectives, and we should be embracing all of our identities.
Both of you, do you have something to add on to that?
No, I don't.
I think, Has said it well. Quantity is not the same as quality. And that's not throwing any shade at anyone, including Louis or
Absolutely.
anyone.
Certainly.
And to the many civil servants who are there writing the replies to the parliamentary questions, we also feel you. We know, and we thank you. And I've been on that side as well. I think beyond how the MPs vote, it's also helpful to see and listen to their speeches. Because quite often, even when the party whip is not lifted, the speeches give a certain nuance to their position, and that helps make government policy better. The second part to this is that Parliament is not the only chamber in which debate takes place. And so through the government parliamentary committees and the other fora that the PAP MPs have, that's how they shape policy in the background as well.
I do have one point to add, though,
Go ahead.
which is that I think our responsibilities, if we are elected, is not just about representing the people to ask the questions in Parliament. A big part, if you are in government, is also how do you then explain, convince and persuade your residents of the policies that the government of the day has been developing. And to me, that's an equally important part of the equation. Because if you are able to explain and bring your residents round to what we are doing, well, that's another part of the process that we are in. And that actually is the responsibility if you are part of the ruling government as well. So you have to listen, you listen well, and you convey some of that into the process. But you must also be prepared to explain. And some of these explanations are not easy explanations. They are not explanations that everyone will listen and straight away say, oh, you're right. In fact, you will expect people to feel that, hey, that is and I don't fully agree with you. But if you have built that relationship with them through your work in the community, I think when they give you that chance to hear you out, you are far more likely to be convincing.
Okay. Let's talk to you personally for a second.
Okay.
Not for a second. I have a couple questions.
All yours.
So you're running as a candidate in the East Coast GRC team, with the East Coast GRC team. So before we chat, let's have a look at what you said at last night's PAP rally.
Nice.
Before politics and after journalism, I became a chief fairy godmother, CEO of Make-A-Wish Singapore, a charity that grants wishes of children with critical illnesses. I'm not done. I was also president of PPIS, a social service agency dedicated to supporting women and families through a wide range of social services and community programs. To younger women in leadership positions, you are enough. We are here to stay. My time in the social impact space gave me the courage to brave challenging situations. Nothing is as easy as it seems, but when there is a will, there is a way. I plan to bridge 3P, people, public and private sector partnerships closer together so more corporates ensure communities thrive.
Has, you have a beautiful voice.
Very kind.
Wow.
Thank you. Very
Wow.
kind. It's still there for now. Trying to keep it.
Preserve it.
Yeah, he's your fan. He was like, woo, you look great on screen.
No, I thought the
Camera
pacing,
was.
the way she brought it across,
The
fantastic.
timbre of the
Very
voice,
kind.
fantastic.
Very
Fantastic.
kind. Thank you.
I was going to ask you about it because you
Yeah?
sound, when I listen to you, and I've listened to a couple of things you've said, a couple of videos you've done, you do sound, I still hear the broadcast journalist in you. So my question was going to be, what are you like when the voice turns off? We all have our chill voice. So what are you like when you're not, on screen or...
So I'll be honest, right? I think I've been really fortunate to get over this one bump. So when I was a kid, I actually did not like my voice. I thought I sounded like a boy, right? Because most girls, when in primary school, you have a higher pitch voice, and I struggle with it a little bit. Like, how come I don't sound like my friends? And then I tell this story, and I'll tell it again. In my secondary school, we had to go through a choir test. Everybody has to go for a pitch check or something.
Choir test?
Yeah, no joke.
Oh, wow.
Like everybody
for real. For real, yeah. Everybody was in a row, and then we had to go for a pitch test, singing test, right? I barely said 2 notes, and then the teacher went C. I thought, okay, win already, right? I couldn't sing, right?
I thought you meant the note was C.
No,
okay,
that's a great C.
I like how positive you are. I just one time, right? The person behind me was like, "Oh, A, B plus," and then I went, "You go C." I was like, oh, "Okay, correct, law. I really can't sing, right?" And then, so that was the thing where I got like, oh, okay, you know what, this voice, I need to I got to wrap my head around it. Right? How do you find the strength in your voice? So it actually came through my internship. I was in a polytechnic, and then I went to an internship at a radio station. And in fact, when I was in school, my first lecturer went like, actually, you should consider radio. There is this gift in your voice. So I said, okay, I'll appreciate that, you know. And then I remember as a kid when we go on, road trips, I would read everything on the billboards. And my mother would say, okay, enough. But in future, if you want to think of a career, you see this lady talking on the radio, you can consider it. So I think the concept of voice and radio is something that I never thought it was a gift, discovered that it was, and decided to use it in a meaningful way. So I don't think that I had the technical skill of turning it on or turning it off. I feel like fairly much sound the same.
You don't need to sing to sound melodious. That is the beauty of it all.
My friend,
I feel like
my
the cheerleader vibes.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, is this like
That's what it is.
Yes.
very kind. But it's true, right? I mean, you sometimes you don't realize that you have a strength and a gift, and having an affirmation coming from the outside really, really helps, right? Yeah. So that was that's my little story about voice, and you know, sometimes you always have imposter syndrome, and I really felt it was important to connect with young women and young leaders to say, hey, you are enough. No, you are enough. You are, really. Embrace it, and you're here to stay. A lot of us have early leadership opportunities, and that's because we had opportunities. And that's what we're here to do, bring out the opportunities, right? So one final snippet. Whenever I feel about, I don't know whether my voice matters in this, I think we must always tell ourselves, every single one matters. Every single one has a space. Every single voice matters. And my mom is solid. She will remind me, you know, you could talk before you could walk. So why is there a doubt in using this voice? Solid, right? Wow. That's all right, Mom. I got you. That's right.
Actually, the reason why I chose that clip of you from last night, because you said that you were a chief godmother. I think it's because of what you do with different communities, right? And what I wanted to ask you was, you spent a lot of years working closely with different groups, you know, from supporting women to uplifting migrant workers. You know, should you be elected into parliament, what's the first issue? And also walking the ground now and talking to people, and maybe Cexiang and Shawn, you might want to add on your own views, but what is the first thing that you will champion in Parliament should you get elected, after hearing, you know, all your different experiences?
Well, you go around and you really realize that there are a lot of things that are top of mind, the cost of living and wanting a better future for your children and really having your own space to call your own. But in recent times, because I've been in East Coast and walking, a lot of the elderlies, and I said it also in my rally yesterday, the elderly actually tells us, please don't forget us. You know, we built Singapore, please don't forget us. Yeah. I found that to be really, really close to heart, to really appreciate our elderly, our predecessors, the giants whose shoulders we stand on. So that's an area. I remember maybe about 7 or 8 years ago, I had the opportunity to speak at the UN and fly Singapore's flag. And one of the things I spoke about was how aging is different in Singapore across gender, across socioeconomic statuses. You know, I have Dinesh was on your show, is also my teammate. His great experiences would also, you know, support us through in that journey. I think that's one part. But at the core of it, I've always believed everything starts at home. You know, you got my two BFFs here thanking their spouses for the support. Really, you know, a solid foundation at home really is a foundation to the community and the society. So I too have a better half, right? Through him, I really think I'm able to find, a better version or best version of myself. So families are really important. So that would be another cause for me, vulnerable families, because we completely understand, right? Sometimes the starting line is not the same. The playing field may not be level. But the idea is for when you see that, hey, I'm slightly ahead of the starting line here. Hey, Cexiang, anything I can do to bring you forward a little bit? All right, hey, bro, you're on a slope, Shawn. Maybe you lean a bit in your right leg so you could even out your starting posture. Things like this, I think, really is what really matters to us, you know.
First things you want to champion?
So for myself, I think as going back to being a parent with young children, for my wife and I, a lot of our conversations, I think, you know, the stress part of it is, you know, how will our children deal with the pressures of social media? And how do you reduce the amount of screen time that young children have? MOH had that guidance as well. And I think many parents feel the same. We all want to reduce the amount of screen time we have for our children. But the question is, you do need to have something for your children to do. And it shouldn't be homework and more homework. So having activities in the community, having playground infrastructure, these are very, very important. I visited a resident. I was trying to tell the resident we have a community event coming up, a carnival. Are you going to bring your children? And he said, I've already signed them up. And I said, wow, that's great. And he said, you know why? Because when my children go for your activity, I will have some me time to myself. And I think that is the balance that the young parents like myself are trying to make. The other thing, though, that, and again, I like to share some of these experiences with the residents. So yesterday I met a grandmother, and when she spoke to me, she lives with her granddaughter. And she was really very proud of her granddaughter. She was sharing with me her granddaughter had received awards from Minister Indrani, who was my predecessor in Tanjong Pagar. And very proud. And I said, I also hope to have the opportunity to be able to present your granddaughter with an EduSave award. And you could see she was close to tears. And that connection between generations, especially in Tanjong Pagar, Tiong Bahru, which, you have diverse range of ages. I really want to try to build that connection so that different generations can come together even stronger.
I want to quickly ask you, because you mentioned about the stresses that kids go through in this day and age. I mean, some proposals that have come out in manifestos is that, the PSLE hot topic, right? What's your take on that?
Well, to be honest, a lot of it, I feel, is less about what is the things that are going on, but how we perceive it ourselves. For example, I just use a very personal example. So when I first came out, there was a photo of mine that I had used on LinkedIn. That was in a more casual state. And the lighting wasn't that good as well. So there was some criticism, about how I look in that picture, and some of it was not too kind. I will say that. But for me, when I started my official Facebook page, I started with a photo of that, and I wanted to make a point that you have to have some confidence in yourself, and there will be stresses, there will be criticism, and don't let yourself get put down by it. Be confident in yourself. But I actually read all the comments, because even among some of the more negative comments, there are snippets of constructive goodwill. For example, find a photographer who has better lighting, find a location with better lighting. And some of these I brought on board. So I think that is how you think about stress, right? You have confidence in yourself, and you look for areas that you can improve. And that really helps for me.
All right. Okay.
And what's more important is that you look good on the inside anyway.
Wow.
Always.
I thank you very much, Shawn.
Yeah.
Shawn
Outside also.
Shawn knows outside as well. Yep.
Yeah.
This is why we are here together at the usual place.
This is the usual cells. Yeah.
Right.
This is the friends couch lah. It's just happening here. Yeah.
That's right.
This is usually.
You're part of the fan group also.
That's right.
Thanks for accepting me, guys. Yes. But before I let you go, I have a bowl of questions, getting to know you questions. Okay, Ha, since you're the closest, just pick one, then hand me the strip of paper. Okay, pick.
Wow,
Yeah,
this is the fairy godmother.
I know, everybody's got to answer the question, so hopefully she picks well.
Oh boy.
All right. I'm going to read it.
One.
I'm going to read it to the camera. Oh, describe your leadership style using a local dish. Are you more kaya toast or chili crab? Is it very hard?
So you need to have it's either kaya toast or chili crab.
No, I think you can just describe it. How would you?
Describe yourself,
What is a local dish that represents your leadership style? Are you cool like ice kacang?
Oh, I like that. I like
Are you
that.
a Thai
I
fan
like that.
dish? I'm giving you all. Okay,
Wow.
Yeah.
Shawn, you
I'll
look like
answer
that answer. Yes.
Yeah. I think the local dish that I would use to describe my leadership style, Nat, is maybe a bit like rojak. and the reason is because I strongly believe this, and when I've mentored youth before, I always say this, that our leadership has to be adaptive. It has to adapt to the context that we're in and to the people that we're leading. And you have to be almost like all things to all men. And people have to take away that little bit from you that's different from someone else. So like rojak, sometimes you like the fruit, sometimes you like the sauce, sometimes you like the UTL, right? And all that comes together. But people enjoy different parts of it, and they experience it in a slightly different way. And that's what I hope to bring in terms of leadership.
All right.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's why I answer first, you
I
see.
do like rojak as well. Yeah, it's up. No more rojak for me and Has.
That's it. You can choose
rojak,
Indian rojak, different color. It's still an optional dish. Yeah.
Right.
Well, for me, I will say, and you said it earlier, Zap Cai Peng.
Oh, okay.
But for me, it's a very simple rationale. I think my leadership style, I have the ability to work with people from a whole range of different backgrounds. And what I really hope to do is that whatever the starting point of the team that I'm working with, I will be able to bring out the best in each and every one of you. And together, you taste better than all the individual parts of the Zap Cai Peng, because there's the sauce, which is the leadership.
Oh, okay.
That goes into it.
Saucy. Saucy.
Wow.
Saucy.
Yeah, I didn't know what kind of answers I was going to get, but very impressive so
Saucy,
far.
saucy.
Okay. Has, bring us home.
I'm going to say nasi lemak. Everyone's got a family recipe. It's different slightly across communities. And there's so many different parts to it that there's something for everyone. Similarly to the Zap Cai Peng, right? There's a different flavor for everybody. But I think with nasi lemak, oftentimes when you taste something slightly different or slightly better, what you would do is you will say, hey, what's your recipe for your sambal? How do you make this crispier? How come your lemak is more lemak? What kind of rice you use? So it's consultative. I think leadership is really about consultation, because at the end of the day, you are building a leadership journey together. That's what I would say, nasi lemak.
Well, it's
How do you
lunchtime.
make your lemak more
I'm quite
lemak?
hungry already.
Yeah, it is lunchtime, and thank you very much for being here and sharing. You guys are really chill and super cool.
Thanks,
thanks,
man.
yeah.
Enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you for coming by. I know it's very busy, so I'm going to let you get back to the campaign trail.
What are you having for lunch?
I don't know. I'll figure it out on the go. Whatever's open.
Maybe a
Today's
bit of what
Sunday.
we just shared.
Yeah, I know. I'm
Nasi lemak,
super
rojak, and
hungry.
That's
Zap
one
Cai
way to get
Peng.
a tummy ache, you know.
And buy for the team here as well.
All right, you guys stay safe on the campaign trail, and I hope to see you again.
Thank you.
Anytime, come back to the usual place.
It'll be our pleasure.
Oh, we will. We
That's
know where it is.
right.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, that's it from me today. The GE2025 campaign has reached its halfway mark, and as we've seen, anything can happen overnight. So I hope to see you again back tomorrow at noon. That's 12 p.m. I'll be streaming live from the same couch right here on the usual place. I'll see you then.